So you will be completing the project called the Bee's Knees Pocket Bag, and this is on page 105 in your 1 Yard Wonder Fabric by Fabric. If you didn't purchase it as a recommended textbook, you need to go ahead and purchase it as the pattern that you need for this project. So the pattern pieces are in this front envelope right here. You'll just go ahead and pull out the ones that you need. In this case, as we read, our instructions tell us that it needs sheet number 4. My sheet was actually wrapped up within sheet number 3. So that is something I kind of had to open it all up and pull it back. So this will come out as a huge sheet. It's got several other project patterns on here. So your very first thing you need to do is cut out the pattern, and you will cut out the ones that say Bee's Knees Pocket Bag. And I need you to also remember to cut out along the solid line. There are going to be dashed lines that are for your markings, which we'll do later, but you need to cut around the solid black lines. So it looks like on our pattern, we have one pattern piece that we needed to cut out, and I've got that finished. The rest of the pieces we will measure with our tape measure and mark them on our fabric. So your next step is to go ahead and get whatever it is fabric that you're using. I have some Texas Tech fabric to make the bag out of. And in doing this, you need to lay it with the wrong side up and the salvage edge at the bottom. The salvage edge, bring it a little closer for you. The salvage edge is the edge where it has a little bit stronger sewn, so it's not fraying. So that's the edge that you want to go down with your fabric. If your fabric says that you need to pre-treat it or wash it, you're more than welcome to do that first. For this project, I'm not going to wash it or iron it just yet. I'm going to go ahead and start work on it directly from the store. So the very first thing that we need to do is we are going to line it up just like the picture here in the book, and we're going to do our rectangles for our exterior / lining, and those actually need to be 11 by 13. So I'm going to start from my top corner and measure 11 by 13 down. You can use your straight pins to measure and mark that spot. So I'm going to start with 11 across and 13 down. So 11 across is here. And once I've marked that, I'm going to mark my 13 down here. When you put the pin in, you put the pin in and then push it back up. Don't just stick the pin in once, it'll completely fall off, okay? And then from that spot, I'll make sure that that's 11 across, and I'll stick one more pin right along this side. So now I have my first rectangle. So exactly from this line, I'm going to do the measurements down again. I'm going to do 11 across, which we're good, we know where that is. And then I'm going to do 13 more down, mark that next spot. And then let's double check that it's still 11 across here. And we're good. And then we do our last one. So we have our first rectangle, second rectangle. From there, I'm going to come and do my 13 down and 11 across. And right here, I'm going to go back and add a pin on this one. I forgot to put one right here. Okay, if it makes you feel better, you are more than welcome to get your tailor's chalk or your fabric marker and draw out the rectangle pieces all the way down to ensure that you go straight. I remember having a lot of my high school students really want to make sure that they go perfectly straight, so they would go ahead and get a ruler out. They would draw whatever it is we were doing with the fabric markers or tailor's chalk and cut it out that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have these 3. The other one is actually just laid out on your fabric, since we need 4 of them. It's laid out this way on the bottom and then down the 13 here. So now I technically have my 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles just like the picture. Okay, from here, if we're doing it just like the picture, I have my pocket, and let's see, they have it going this way for the first one, and then it's flipped over, and then this way for the other one. And it says, if you look on your pattern, it'll tell you how many bee's knees pocket bag you need to cut 2. One of them is reversed. So if you're in doubt and you're like, I don't know how I'm laying this out on my fabric, check the picture, shows you exactly how. What I'm going to do is go ahead and cut out the rectangles, and then we'll finish laying everything out. Okay, so I have my 4 rectangles cut out, and I have them right here. What I went ahead and did is I have 3 of my red Raider fabrics, and then just for fun and to add a little bit of I did 1 this color. That will end up where the pocket is. You'll be able to see a little bit of this check pattern. You are not expected to do this. You don't have to do that. Yours will probably have 4 of the same kind of fabric, but if you wanted to make it a little accent piece of something that goes along with your Texas Tech fabric, or not, well, my Texas Tech fabric, but whatever fabric you have, you're more than welcome to do that. I just cut the same as this. Now, I have my rectangles. I'm going to set those aside. And now you'll actually use your pocket pattern piece, and you'll lay that on your fabric. What you need to remember is that when you're laying it, you've got to pin the pattern down before you try and cut it out. Otherwise, it will just move on you. So not a ton of pins are needed, but pins maybe in each corner will help you. So once I have pinned it down, cut this one piece out, then what I'll do is I'll have that piece. Then I need to flip the pocket up, pin it again, and cut the other piece. Once you've cut your pocket pieces, you'll have 2 that look just like this. And what will happen is they will end up being back to back like that. So I am ready to measure and cut my straps and my inside pocket now. I want to use my accent fabric for my straps and pocket. What you'll do is you'll just use whatever your fabric is, and that remaining fabric, use that salvage edge down still, and measure and cut your straps and pocket. So in our case, these straps are 5 by 30. So we will do this the same way. I will measure 5 over, set a pin, and then this time it's a lot longer. I've got 30 inches down. Since it is so long, About halfway down, I'm going to measure 5 inches again. That it will help me cut straight and know that I'm on the right path and I'm staying straight with my shears. And then 5 inches down this way, right here. And then I'll measure the other ones. Then I will do the same thing with measuring the inside pockets. Measure, pin, and cut those out. I now successfully have all of my pieces cut out for the bag. And if you look here, I have a couple of accent colors, but yours will be the same. And hopefully you were able to cut these out pretty easily. This next step, you're going to need an iron and an ironing board, so you might want to go ahead and get those out. Okay, now we are ready to begin prepping to sew. The very first thing it lists in our instructions to do is to take our little rectangle pieces, which is our excuse me, inside pocket, and you're to fold them down in 1/2 inch and iron them and then stitch them. So I would advise using your sewing gauge or your seam gauge. You'll move the little blue piece over to 1/2 inch. That way you can really measure and make sure that you are staying straight as you iron. This is to ensure that you don't have to pin, since it is such a small amount to fold over. I'm putting pins in there and make it difficult to sew. So you'll iron until there's a good crease. Then that will help your stitching. It'll help make it simpler for you. So let's go ahead, have my ironing board set up. What you'll do is be very, very careful first of all, because it is going to be hot, but I've set my seam gauge, and you'll take your iron, and as you're going down, you will simply press until you have a really good crease. Good. You will do all 4 sides this way, across the top, edge, and bottom. Fold it over, it's time to take them to the sewing machine. Okay, so the first step in your bag is to sew your inside seam pockets. I've already got us started a little bit. I will start that over. Remember, keep these out. And then they should be, your edges should be pressed nicely. Mine have kind of come undone a little bit, but there we can pull them tight and it works. So remember to put your presser foot down the back of your machine, and then you will begin. You'll go a little ways. You're going to hit your reverse button, hold that down so that it stitches in reverse, and then you are ready to move forward. All that does is lock, like ties a knot for the thread. Let me fold this back over. My 1/2 inch came out. Okay, once I get to the corner, I'm going to use my hand reel and roll my needle in, leave my needle in the fabric, lift up my presser foot, rotate it around, and then put my presser foot back down, and I'm ready to do the next side without missing a stitch. unpressed. Okay, here we go. Okay, same thing. This technique is called a pivot. Lift up and back down. Last one. Okay, when you get to the very end, you're going to press your reverse button again, tie that into a knot, and then lift up your press foot and pull out. Now this is what I was talking about. You want to leave lots of space here so that your machine doesn't come back unthreaded. You want to leave it threaded for the next time. Go back, look at your stitch. It should be pretty straight, looks pretty nice. You'll want to go ahead and trim off all this extra thread before moving on. This is my next inside pocket, and let's go ahead and get this one done. After sewing around your inside pockets, your next step is to center the pocket on one of your lining pieces. And to do that, all you do is measure both sides. The instructions say to do your pocket 4 inches down. That's where you start pinning. And then all I did was measure both sides and make sure they equaled 3 inches. And then I was able to pin my pocket on. So now for your pocket, it's important that you don't sew the top because you want it to continue being a pocket. So you'll start on one edge and sew around the other. In my case, I'm going to start on this side and sew right on the edge of the pocket. Instructions say to edge stitch. So again, when you start, you'll go a little bit and then hit that little back one and get a good thing going. So as I'm moving along, I'm going to take the pins out so I don't run over them. And then I'll keep going as I do my edge stitch. Take your time. Same idea here. Put your needle in, lift up, turn around, and then you're ready to do the bottom side. When you get to a pin, slow down, take out that pin, and then keep on moving. Do your pivot on the corner, and back down. Take the pin out as you go. And my last pin. And when you get to the end, remember to do your reverse stitch. Lift up that presser foot, pull it out, give yourself some room so you don't have to rethread, and trim. So now I've got my inside pocket ready to go. Now let's do the other one. I already have this one pinned, so I'll just start in the same place. there is my second pocket. Be sure and go back and clip all of your loose threads before you continue. Alright, your next step is to make a dot on the wrong side of the lining where you are going to put your snap. And the instructions say to find the middle, so I'm going to fold it in half. And what you'll do is 1.5 inches down from the top edge. So first of all, we'll fold it in half, and I know this middle part where the crease is where I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to measure 1.5 inches down, and that's right here. That's where I'm going to put my dot. Okay, and you can use your tailor's chalk or fabric marker. So that's right in the middle, 1.5 inches down. From there, that's going to help me put on my fusible interfacing. I'm going to go iron that on real quick, and I'm going to do that to both sides. This is adding stability for our snap we're fixing to put on. Okay, so now I've got my interfacing right here, which will make that fabric thicker and stronger for the snap. And where my dot is, that's where I'm going to hold, is on the other side is where I'm going to sew my snap. Now, I was not able to find a magnetic snap at the store, so I just bought a regular snap, which is just fine. And what I'm doing is I'm going to hand sew this little snap on this side, and then the other half of the snap on the other side. So I already have my needle threaded, and you will remember doing this from your repairs. But you'll come up and, oops, I didn't catch it. Come up and catch the inside through the loop, and I'm going to hand sew by looping around this snap several times. So there's one. Probably going to do 2 on each side of the snap to ensure that it stays on nice and tight. And pull real tight, and then I'm going to come up here and do the same thing, going right through and pulling tight. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tie it off on the back side. So there's one snap. Now I'm going to get my other piece of lining and do the other snap. There's my snap on that side, and we can see if they both snap together. And they do. So my bag will be able to snap shut. Alright, your next step is to pin the 2 lining pieces together that you just finished working on. If you look, there's where my snaps are. I'm going to put them together. I went down and along the edges I've added pins so that I can go through and sew around the sides and the bottom. Do not sew the top because it's bag. We want the top to be open, okay? This time you're going to keep it 5/8 of an inch. So measure on your seam guide, which is this metal plate right here. Find the 5/8, and that's where you need to keep the edge of your fabric. 5/8 of a seam is the average and most used seam. Remember to use your forward and back stitch. don't go all the way to the edge. We're going to do our pivot and line it up to 5/8 of an inch. So twist. It's a little, not quite far enough. Now let's try it. Good, that's good, 5/8 of an inch, and we're ready to go. Leave lots of room, and now I have my lining pieces put together on the inside. Okay, your next step is to grab your pocket pieces, and if you've noticed, I put them wrong sides together. The instructions inform us to sew along the curve. We're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. So remember how I said 5/8 for the other? You need to find 1/4 on your seam gauge right here and follow that. As you're doing this curve seam, go slow. Got my first pin. And the last pin. And reverse stitch. And trim. There's my curve seam. Now it says to trim any extra allowance here, so go ahead and take your shears and trim that seam allowance. Do not trim your thread. I'm just going to cut a tiny bit along the edges here. Okay, now that I've got my thing trimmed, trim off my thread. I'm going to turn this right side out, and you see a perfectly curved seam. You need to press this with your iron, and then we'll top stitch it. Okay, now that we've got that pressed, it's nice and crisp. A top stitch, we're going to just go right along the top and keep it at 1/4 of an inch again. You are going to see this stitch, so make sure you do it nice and slow. And then there's our nice top stitch for our pocket, nice reinforced pocket. Alright, your next step is to pin the pocket that you just made to one of your outside pieces. And if you notice, you have your pocket right here, and so I'm using that accent color I picked out, but yours will end up being that same fabric. So now we are going to stitch the pocket on all the way around with a base stitch, and all that means is that on your settings you can change it a little bit looser, go up or down as far as the tightness and looseness of the thread. The reason we're doing just a long stitch like that, or an edge stitch, is to just hold it in place. We're going to reinforce it later. Okay, there you go. Now I've got my pocket sewn on and I'm ready for the next step. Okay, the next step is to put both sides of your fabric together. See where you just sewed your pocket? You're going to put the right sides together of your last outer pieces, pin around each edge, and now we're going to sew again with 5/8 of an inch. The sides and the bottom, not the top. My bobbin came unthreaded. All I need to do is stick that back in here and we'll pull that back up. There we go. Okay, let's try that again. Once you have that done, then you are going to turn the exterior part of the bag right side out. So as I'm turning it right side out, you want to be sure and really push the corners out with your fingers. Come over here and push this corner out as well. Shake it out a little bit. Okay, so now you have this side and this side of your bag. It's looking good. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at is the straps. And with our straps, we need to iron first. I went ahead and on one side of my fabric, I just did some lightweight fusible interfacing just to make it stronger since it'll be a strap. That is something that definitely is not required. You don't have to do that. It doesn't call for it. But if you would like to, you can. So the first thing you're going to do is fold over each end by about 1/2 inch and iron. And let's get this other end. Alright, next is you're going to fold your entire strap in half, long ways. So long ways like this. And we'll go ahead and iron that down as well. Okay, once I have that crease, I then am going to open it back up and then fold each side into that fold and iron. So the edge of your fabric should line up right where that crease was. Okay, and then we'll do the other side. It's kind of tricky a little bit. Should be hitting that middle part again. Okay, then once I've done that, I'm going to fold it all over and it'll be one skinny strap. So it's nice and thick and durable for your bag. Okay, you'll do your other strap the same way, and then we will come back and top stitch all the way around your strap. We are going to go ahead and do our top stitch now on our straps, and then we will attach those as well. So you don't need to pin anything, you'll just do your stitch right along the edge of your strap. This is called a top stitch because you're going right on top. Okay, I'm going to go down this edge now. Okay, and there you go. You have your straps ready to go now. Let's do the other one. And now we have both of our straps done. So your next step is to pin the straps on. And you may feel strange pinning it this way, but you're going to measure 2 inches in from the outside here. And that's where you will start your strap. And you'll go ahead and pin it to the front, and then you'll let it gather so that you have all of your strap right here, and make sure it's not twisted. And then you'll come up to the other side over here, and you will measure 2 inches in from the side as well, and then you'll pin that one. So you'll do that on this side, and you'll also do it on the other side. Alright, per your instructions, I have taken my 2 pieces that I'm sewn. So I have my lining wrong side out on the outside, and I tucked my pretty pieces with the handles stuck down in there and the handles around the edges. And now what I'm going to do is sew around the edges. Now, I'm not going to sew my edges shut like that. I'm going to sew each edge like this. So I'm going to sew around this way. And you're supposed to leave a 4-inch opening, so I'm going to leave my opening right here. That's so I can turn my bag right side out later. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start right here. And you're going to go all around the edge of your bag. Take my needle out. I'm sewing through lots of layers right here because this is where my strap is. Okay, same thing as I come around towards the seam, I'm going to be sewing through lots of layers here as well. Alright, and then I'm coming up around towards the other side, the other handle. Keep moving as you go along. Now here is where I'm going to stop and leave my opening. So I have stitched all around the top, but I've left an opening right here. But you can see the other side, how I've stitched all around it. Now this is the fun part. You've got to reach in through this hole and turn your bag right side out. So all I'm going to do is through my little hole, I'm going to pull my bag, turn it right side out. Get some of that interfacing in there. There we go. Oop. And you start seeing which bag's going to look like. There's a strap. There's another strap coming. Okay. So now I've got it right side out. I'm going to reach into this hole and really straighten out all of my corners very well. I've got this one, this corner, and it's gonna look like a really long piece. I've got this corner and this corner. So this is technically what your bag looks like right now. I guess you can see it a little bit. It's one long piece, but what you'll need to do is go ahead and stick your lining in the bag. And voila, there's your bag. You have the inside with the pocket, and then you have your outside with the pocket. Now as for this part right here, we're going to top stitch all the way around the bag, and we're going to close this as we top stitch around. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, before we do that, let's iron. Now we are ready to top stitch. Careful not to catch your straps in any of these. Okay. Alright, now you are finished with your bag. You have a nice top stitch. Your handles are good to go. And then here is the back side. And then voila, you have your snap right in the middle where you can snap your bag closed and nothing will fall out. So, congratulations, you have successfully made your first project. Very proud of you. Remember to go through and make sure that you cut any loose threads off or any extra threads that you see. But nice job. So you got a front, you got a pocket right here in the front, and then of course you have yours in the middle on the inside, and then your snap. So very nice job. Enjoy your bag.